Khamzat Chimaev can't seem to get a fight, but at least he's a topic of discussion ahead of UFC 283 this week. Gilbert Burns saying he's not getting a rematch with Khamzat because Khamzat's going to middleweight. And Neil Magny saying Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal. After working out with him, he learned the hard way, in other words. So we got these topics and more coming up next.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is The Community MMA with your host, Chris Cross.
Dana White privilege. Dana White privilege.
Khamzat Chimaev.
Dana White privilege.
Everybody's upset.
Khamzat Chimaev.
What up? This your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is The Community MMA. Bright and early this morning. Just about 48 hours away from UFC 283. Well, maybe a little bit more, because this thing kicks off at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's a big one, right? I mean, you got Jamahal Hill versus Glover Teixeira. You got Davis and Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno for the fourth time, if you're interested. Which that's kind of wild, because the flyweight division isn't like the biggest division in the UFC. If anything, it's the most overlooked. And then now, to make matters worse, you got not a trilogy, but a fourth fight between these two. And I don't think people are happy about it. People are really upset with these rematches. I mean, people are really upset with these rematches. Especially if you're a Khamzat Chimaev fan. Right? Neil Magny and Gilbert Burns, who are fighting this week, welterweight division, big for like 5 versus 7 matchup in fight 3 at UFC 283, both talking about Khamzat Chimaev and how Magny saying he's the real deal, Gilbert Burns saying he's not getting a rematch because he's moving up to middleweight, which makes sense. And to me, the UFC blew it on this one. You could have a potential 3-belt champion if in the first 2 to 3 years you can get him a welterweight title fight. And if he wins that, the next 2 are going to be easier to me. The middleweight is a lock. The lightweight or light heavyweight could be a little tougher, but he could probably do it. And now, he's going to be stuck in the middleweight, and then he'll go up to light heavyweight eventually. But the bottom line is they could have got him in the mix in the welterweight, and he did what he's supposed to do. He fought the people he's supposed to fight. Got a big contender fight against Gilbert Burns at a time when he's fasting and things like that. Very close to Ramadan, or right in the middle of Ramadan. And, he didn't have his best fight, but at the same time, the guy still won the fight. And he still can't get a title shot. Because it'll be remembered that Khamzat was living through all these rematches. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Kenneth Bruner weighing in saying, yeah, Chris, I agree 100. Khamzat needs to be fighting for the title in March against Pereira. These rematches are turning folks off and hurting the sport. They want me to pay to watch Figueiredo versus Moreno 4? Crazy. And this nonsense hurts fighters like Khamzat. I want to watch the best fighters in the world fight. UFC matchmakers are more concerned about creating a soap opera that never ends. Yeah, and sometimes I get these rematches. Sometimes I get them. But at the same time, let a few fights play out before the rematch. Like, let Khamzat fight Leon Edwards. Okay? Maybe the contender wins. Say Khamzat wins, and let Usman fight him. And keep some type of merry-go-round going, like they do in the women's strawweight division. You have a merry-go-round between 3 or 4 fighters. Well, they're not constantly having rematches. That division constantly moves along, and it might go back to 2 fighters ago who held the belt, but at least we're getting new fights. But in all these other divisions, we're getting rematches, man, and it is bad for the sport. Now the Covington Usman rematch wasn't necessarily bad, because at least Covington was winning. Yeah, he's fighting ducks, but he's winning, and he gets a you got to do some things to at least get a rematch. You shouldn't just automatically get a rematch after you get KO'd in a title fight. That's the bottom line. You shouldn't automatically just get a rematch. So I mean, it is what it is. But to just get a rematch for no reason whatsoever, to me, hurts the sport. Yeah, 100%. So what's the future for Khamzat Chimaev? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Because no one can understand why the UFC has got this guy on hold. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It makes zero sense. I mean, these rematches just seem to be the most important thing for the UFC, as if people are clamoring to watch them, as if people are just like waiting. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see another rematch. No, that's not what the people are doing. The people are upset about it. We just did some videos on Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, and not many people seem to really care. Because in the back of their mind, it's like, dude, it doesn't even matter who wins this fight. They're not really the champion. We got other guys that are on the card. You got Shavkat Rakhmonov, who could probably beat both of them. You got Hamza, probably could beat both of them. Bilal Muhammad could get in there and have a real shot against both of them. Do you see where I'm going with this? Now, Leon Edwards did look good against Bilal, but the bottom line is you got people that can go up against him. And instead, we're just constantly rematching. What about all these other flyweight fighters that are behind Figueiredo and Moreno? They're just chilling. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you got Neil Magny weighing in saying 100% I still want the Chimaev fight. Magny told the MMA Hour. We had a slight opportunity to train in New York, and the guy is definitely the real deal. The best way I can describe it is I messed around and found out. Khamzat is definitely the real deal. I went out there thinking like, oh, he's just a sweet little wolf that I can train with in jiu-jitsu. He continued. I figured out real fast, like, damn, this guy's actually the real deal. He's not a fighter to take lightly at all. Where, if I'm being honest, had I gotten the fight early on, I might have set myself up for failure, looking past him a little bit. And this should be something all fighters are thinking about. You want to dismiss Khamzat Chimaev. You want to say, oh, he's not that good, blah, 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 blah. But as I said in the news update the other day, then fight him then. You guys all got problems with Khamzat Chimaev, but none of you are lining up to fight the guy. So what's up with that? That's what I want to know. What's up with that? Anyhow, let's keep it moving because we got UFC 283 this weekend. A lot of big fights right in the main event. You got Glover Teixeira, Jamahal Hill, and this fight is getting closer and closer in the odds as we get there. It's nearly 50-50 right now with Jamahal Hill a slight favorite. Figueiredo Moreno 50-50. Gilbert Burns is a huge favorite over Neil Magny. Jessica Andrade is a huge favorite over Lauren Murphy, which that's surprising. I mean, Andrade should win, but Lauren Murphy's no joke. And then you got Paul Craig and Johnny Walker, where Johnny Walker is a pretty big favorite over Paul Craig, who, that could go either way, to be honest. And it looks like Shogun Rule is taken out of the main event and moved down to the prelims. You also got Gregory Rodriguez Robocop taking on Bruno Ferreira. Thiago Moises taking on Melquizal Costa. So 2 newcomers there. You got, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Brazilians fighting in 4 fights in a row. So, and what I mean by that is there's 8 fighters in 4 fights. 6 of them are Brazilians. I mean, it's just ridiculous. This card is ridiculous for obvious reasons. Then you got Shamil Abdurakhimov taking on Jailton Almeida. I can't wait to see that fight. Almeida is a huge 10-1 favorite, which is pretty wild. But let's put this thing to bed, right? As we normally do leading up to the fights, let's get into the two big predictions of the week. The two championship fights will begin with Figueiredo versus Moreno, and then we'll jump into Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill. Let's get to it now. In the flyweight division at UFC 283, your first pay-per-view event of the year. This is a co-main event. It was the main event, but it got pushed down. Deiveson Figueiredo, 21-2, takes on Brandon Moreno, comes in at 20-6, and this is for the flyweight title. Moreno, 2 inches taller at 5'7". He's got a 2-inch reach advantage as well, 70-68. Both guys fight right-handed. Both guys land about 3.5 significant strikes per minute, although Moreno's average is slightly better, but very close. Both guys have a takedown average of about 1 takedown every 2 rounds. So the numbers are completely even. You can see why this is the 4th installment of this fight. Figueiredo has a 58% takedown defense. That's not great. Moreno a little bit better at 68%. But a good thing about this prediction is we have several fights between these guys before that we can break down. Now let's go back to the first one. Okay. Back at UFC 256, this fight ended up being a draw. Figueiredo outstruck Moreno barely, 137-132. But Moreno had 4 takedowns compared to 2 for Figueiredo. So a draw is not a bad, it was a majority draw. It wasn't a bad decision because when you look at the numbers, it's very close. You know, one guy led in significant strikes, the other led in takedowns. So very close. Then you get into the second fight. This is the one where Brandon Moreno came back and won. He outstruck Figueiredo 47-24, had 2 takedowns to 1, and landed the rear naked submission to win the fight in the 3rd round. And that was the only finish between these guys when they fought. In the 3rd fight, Deiveson Figueiredo came back and got the unanimous decision victory, but he got outstruck 105-86. However, he did have 2 takedowns to 1 over Moreno. Questionable decision, but it is what it is. So, all in all, these guys are 1-1-1 against each other. And sometimes you see these rematches and multiple rematches and things like that, and you question them. But this is the ultimate situation where guys should be facing each other 3 and now 4 times. Because, again, they both got 1 win, and they have a tie against each other. So it's completely even down the middle. Now, in the last 2 fights, keep note, Brandon Moreno dominated in significant strikes. Okay, takedowns were pretty much even, 3 takedowns apiece, but Moreno led in significant strikes. So that's something to keep an eye on in this fight. Moreno's got to continue to land more significant strikes, but he's got to have good takedown defense and stay away from the takedowns. He might have to be a little more active, and that's a trouble for Moreno, right? To get the decision against Figueiredo, he's got to be more active, but at the same time, it exposes him to takedowns. So it's a tricky field here that Moreno's navigating through, but I got to believe in him this time that he's going to get the job done. I have yet to see Figueiredo dominate him, but we have seen Moreno dominate Figueiredo. So that's what makes this fight very interesting. It really could go either way, making a prediction tough to, have good footing on, but I like Brandon Moreno. Number 1, I like the guy. Number 2, I want to see him win. And number 3, I think he can win. So in my opinion, Moreno wins this fight by decision, which is going to be the hardest way for him to win the fight. But I do believe he's going to go to a decision, and he's going to get the decision this time with more activity and better takedown defense. He'll move to 21-6 in my opinion, reclaim the flyweight title. Could we have a 5th fight? Who knows? Figueiredo will fall to 21-3, flyweight division, UFC 283. And at this time in the UFC, it's a good question. Who knows? Could we have a 5th fight? I mean, it seems like you're getting rematch after rematch. A 5th fight is a real possibility. But at least they're both 1-1-1 coming in. And it's even money for entertainment purposes only, meaning the odds are pretty much equal. And in those situations, it makes a prediction really tough. Because on one end, if someone's a nice favorite, I like to peek into why. And sometimes when a guy's an underdog, I try to figure out, well, why is he the underdog? And if I can't figure it out, I'm going with the underdog. So when it's even, it makes it even tougher. And then let's keep it moving. The biggest fight of the night, obviously, Jamahal Hill with a huge opportunity. And I can't tell you how much I hope this guy wins this fight, but does that mean I'm predicting him to win? Those are two separate things. And believe me, I keep them separate. But maybe not this time. Check this out. In the light heavyweight division, for the light heavyweight division vacant title at UFC 283, this will be your headliner. Glover Teixeira, the former champion, comes in at 33-8, taking on rising contender Jamahal Hill, who comes in at 11-1 and gets the opportunity of a lifetime, quite frankly. Now, Jamahal Hill is actually the favorite in this fight, oddly enough. He's 2 inches taller at 6'4". He's got a 3-inch reach advantage, 79-76. He's a southpaw. He fights left-handed. Glover Teixeira stands right-handed. Now, Jamahal Hill is much more active, 6.5 significant strikes per minute to just 3.8 for Glover Teixeira. But the difference here is that Glover Teixeira lands nearly a takedown each and every round of his UFC career, and it's been a long career. So look for that. He gets about 2.2 over 3 rounds, just shy of 1 per round. So that's going to be a big factor in this fight. Now, Glover Teixeira is coming off the loss to Yuri Prochazka, who's out for probably a year. Before that, he beat Jan Blachowicz to win the title. Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, Nikita Krylov, and Ian Kudalaba. So he's on a major run for a while. And if I'm not mistaken, he has 6 straight wins before the loss to Yuri Prochazka. And now that Yuri Prochazka is out for a year, he's looking to get back in the win column, get the title, and probably hold on to it for a while before he heads off into retirement. Now, sweet dreams, Jamahal Hill, 65% takedown defense. That's not going to cut it in this fight. And that's what everybody's going to be watching. If the fight stays standing, Jamahal Hill's got an excellent chance of finishing Glover Teixeira. But if the fight goes to the ground, Jamahal Hill's in deep waters. He's in trouble. Now, he also beat Thiago Santos by KO. Johnny Walker, KO. Jimmy Crute, KO. Now, we did say that he lost one fight. Who was that against? Paul Craig, who KO'd him in just under 2 minutes in the first round. Under 2 minutes in the fight. That's the big question mark, right? Was that just something that happened out of nowhere that you really can't hold against Jamahal Hill? I mean, he'd be 12-0 without that, or at least 11-0. Fact is, though, he did lose to Paul Craig. That's a big question mark in this fight. But Jamahal Hill's on the rise. I'm not sure about the takedowns. That's the big question mark here. That could completely change the fight like Glover Teixeira did against Jan Blachowicz. So despite, we've seen a lot where strikers get into a fight or into one of these stylistic matchups with a grappler, a guy that can take you down, and it completely wipes out any chance of the striking ability of the striker. And that's going to be something to watch here, because if he gets taken down, this fight is probably over. And it's likely to happen at some point, but I'm still going to ride with Jamahal Hill. I think this guy's a rising contender, obviously. He's got the chance of a lifetime. He's going to go for it. You just got to be real careful about not being sloppy. Yeah, you want to get the knockout, but if you miss on big punches, you're going to expose yourself and get taken down. So you got to keep an eye on that, especially early in this fight. But I still like Jamahal Hill to land the big strike and drop Glover Teixeira out of nowhere, which will be something to see. And suddenly Jamahal Hill goes from the number 7 contender straight to the top, and he's a UFC light heavyweight champion. That's what I predict is going to happen. That's what I believe is going to happen. Of course, this is my opinion, but I like Jamahal Hill to win this fight and move to 12-1 and fill in the vacant spot in the light heavyweight division and become the new champion here at UFC 283. Yeah, so very excited about this fight for many reasons. Number one, I like Jamahal Hill. He should be on the dude list, or at least ranked very high on the dude list, but I didn't expect him to get the title shot this quick. And I think he's going to win. I want him to win. But at the end of the day, it's just better for the sport, right? Because a potential Jamahal Hill versus Yuri Prochazka title fight would just be awesome. Two guys that can get finishes at any time. The thing that Jamahal Hill is going to have a tough time with is as he moves up here now, the grappling is going to be very important, because if Glover Teixeira gets him down and lays on him or leans on him up against the fence in the clinch, it's going to be problematic for him. So keep an eye on that. Now, as we jump into the Q&A this morning, you got EB Files X says, rumors that when Khabib was in Toronto a few weeks ago, someone asked him about spending more time with his family. Apparently that got Khabib's mind running, and he made the decision to leave MMA coaching to spend more time with his family. So, who knows what was going through Khabib's head? I still really think there's something going on with Eagle FC, and he wants to put more time and focus into that. Again, Dana White can't also be a coach and a promoter. There's just not enough time in a day. Could be wrong on this, but that's just where I'm leaning with that. Who wins? Wilton Ramos says, I said it last fight, and I'm saying it now. Leon Rocky Edwards. I was a fan when he was on the come up. I knew it. Man, I wish we could bet then. Yeah, so now Leon was losing. Leon Edwards was losing the fight against Usman and just found a way to win. So we can't just assume like Leon's going to walk in there and just destroy Usman. But that's what I'm hoping does happen, even though it's hard to see. I mean, but the KO in the last fight should weigh heavily on this fight compared to the last one. Al Tapo Mactapo, if Usman beats Edwards, will he continue fighting? And I think I misread this one the first time, but yeah, if Usman beats Edwards, he should continue fighting, because of a potential Khamzat Chimaev fight with all the pay-per-view points that would get. You're going to get all the Khamzat Chimaev fans like me tuning in. You're going to get all the Khamzat Chimaev fans that don't like him tuning in. And it's going to create this wild mix. But the problem for Khamzat now is, if that ever did happen, and he's going to middleweight, is that Usman has lost now. He's not, I would have much rather Khamzat beat Usman in the same way that Leon beat him when he's at his height, and because I was completely shocked when that fight ended. I mean, it was absolutely wild. It was absolutely wild the way that Leon won that fight, because Usman seemed indestructible at that time. And we found out, guess what? He's human. He can lose too. And he no longer has that aura about him like he's invincible. He can be beaten. So that's the bottom line. But check this out for now. This is your boy Chris Cross. This is the Community MMA. Big fights at UFC 283. 15 fights. Oh my gosh, I got to get some rest. This Saturday night is going to be big, huge, and a long night. So for now, this is your boy Chris Cross. This is the Community MMA. Have a great day. God bless. As always, peace.